Good morning and welcome to Bowtie Life, where we talk mostly about life in the garden. But we are going to talk about new life in the garden. We have several seeds we're going to be planting up for our fall gardening. And we already have started. If you didn't see where we planted out some very old lettuce and spinach seeds that my mom gave me recently. That's what is here in these first little six packs. I call them a 6-pack because there's 6 cells in them. Of course, it's been less than 2 days, so nothing has come up yet. I don't see anything. I don't expect anything to come up this fast, though it would be cool. Old seeds. You'll go back and look at that video if you have not already. A link will appear up here over my left shoulder. If you are on a device that gets cards, there will probably be a link at the end of this video to either that video or the playlist that includes that video. One or both. But anyway, today we're going to plant some new seeds because there are some plants that just do better in the fall and winter. And I'll explain why, because we have a couple of different situations here and good reasons for things to happen. So here we go. Hi, I'm Bowtie Dave. So first things first is what seeds we're going to be planting. And these are some seeds. They're not very old seeds. Most of them are from last year, this year. A couple of them are from 2 years ago. Now, on the dates on those seed packets, that is not an expiration date. Do not think, and that's why I'm growing these. I'm wondering if these lettuce will grow. Now, lettuce has a tendency to be, does not last a long time, but some of these, we are not worried about that. For instance, we have some Texas blue bonnets that were actually packaged for 2023. It always tells somewhere on the seed pack, at the front, the back, sometimes it's printed on the side. It always tells what year it's packaged for. And this is actually worded correctly, packaged for 2023, sell by December of 2023. Doesn't mean it's not viable anymore. It just means the seed company needs to get it out of their shelves. And that has something to do with regulations. So I don't know anything about regulations, but these blue bonnets, we're going to grow up some of those. These chives, these are packaged for 2022. I already have all my little labels made. I put the name of the thing on there, the year I plant, the date I'm planting it, the year sometimes that the seeds were packaged for. Occasionally I'll actually put on there for like this cauliflower. That FM means Fairy Morse. I use FM for Fairy Morse because I use them a lot. I get most of my Fairy Morse seeds from Lowe's, the local big box store. And I also get Livingston seeds. And you can see Livingston packaged for 2022. These are Brussels sprouts. And we have broccoli. We have we have 2 broccolis. I didn't notice that. We have a calabrese broccoli and an early green broccoli. We also have this, of course, snowball cauliflower. Now, I said there's 2 different situations here. Number one, the most common thing is we have brassicas. That's going to be the cauliflower, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts. And there's going to be more stuff I'm seeding out, but I'm only doing 6 in a video. But these are annuals or biennials. They grow for either 1 or 2 years. The broccoli and cauliflower, of course, we know that's the flower that we eat just before it has bloomed, and that's I believe it's a 1-year plant. The Brussels sprouts, I know because I learned the hard way, is a biennial, which means it grows for 2 years. Creates fruit the first year. It'll go on and flower the second year and create the seed where you can collect for next year. But we have another situation here with the Okay, now the chives, are they? Yes, they're perennial. Okay, I suddenly doubted myself there for just a second. The chives and the blue bonnets are perennial. Well, now, are the blue bonnets perennial? I think they are. I know they will come year after year. Maybe they seed themselves, but they will do better starting in the fall here in the panhandle of Florida. Now, if you're up north, chives, you can plant first thing in the spring. You'll have your growing season. They work great. But, and they'll also stand through cold and even survive under snow. We don't get snow. Last time we had snow was a long time ago. We get frost most years, but not every year. Last year at Christmas, we had a hard frost where it got down below 18 degrees below zero. That's like 9 degrees Celsius. I'm sorry, minus 9 degrees Celsius, I think. Minus 8 degrees, somewhere in there. But that was, for us, that's a hard freeze. But one thing I have learned over the years, and I'm finally getting it right this time, is that I am going to be planting things like these chives, and I'll mention, like, we're planting some new artichokes. We're going to be planting some new artichokes, which is a perennial. We're going to be planting that in the fall correctly this year, because for the past 2 years I've tried planting artichokes in the spring, things like that. They need the chance over our nice warm winter to start getting really deep roots. Another thing we're going to, well, I'll save that for the next one of the next videos, because we're doing a few of these fall seed starting videos. So that's the seeds that we're going to be planting out today. We are going to be planting out more. A little bit about the soil that I'm using. I am using, my favorite soil is the Stay Green potting soil for seed starting, and I know it's not the traditional thing. I like the Stay Green. I get it from my local Lowe's because, number one, it is cheap, and number two, it's consistent. Normally with the cheaper soils, one time you'll get a nice mix, and then 3 months later it'll be all sand, and then another 2 months later it'll be clay in it. You just don't know what you're going to get. But with the Stay Green, they do a really good job of consistency, and that's why I like the Stay Green for most of my stuff. I use this and the garden soil. I don't use a lot of garden soil, but when I do, it's going to be the Stay Green because of the price. So when you're seed starting, you typically don't need to put in nutrients. The seed themselves have the nutrients it needs to get above the ground and put out 1 or 2 cotyledon leaves. That cotyledon leaf is part of the seed. Think of it like the solar panels on a space station. As it goes up the first time, it stretches out that solar panel. Now it has electricity. That's what those cotyledon leaves are. It's the energy, the initial energy it needs to start growing and putting down roots and looking for nutrients so that it can create more energy. Well, a lot has to happen before it needs food. And so it is not necessary. My problem is, and you got a garden for you. Every one of us is different, and I'm a little bit different. Ask anyone who knows me. I'm a little different. I'm a piece of work. But I do like to put a bit of fertilizer in the soil when I'm doing my seed starting, because when these things get going, my ADD brain may forget. And so I like to put a little bit just in case I don't get there in time when it could use some nutrients in there. A lot of times I will be putting it in a solo cup. We'll up pot to solo cups. There will be videos coming out about that. So be sure and subscribe to Bowtie Life here on YouTube, because that's where all of our long format videos come out first. And actually most of our long format videos come out on YouTube. So be sure you subscribe there. And anyway, so that is why I'm using a little bit of this. I say a little bit. It was a nice scoop of it in this whole thing of soil, this whole big tub of soil. I actually took this out to the wheelbarrow, dumped it in there, mixed it all in. I recycled some old soils that I had sitting around. Things like, in fact, this was our old lettuce, and it's gone to seed big time. But this old soil will eventually get recycled into that. It actually grew wonderfully for it. We used it indoors, and it was great stuff. But that will be recycled into here, so we can get more life out of it. Another reason I put the nutrients, that stuff is very depleted, so I just prefer to have a little nutrients in there. It is not a matter of right and wrong. Now, if you're putting chemical nutrients in there that are non-organic, you can burn them, which is why I like the organic stuff. This is OMRI listed, certified organic, and it is a kind of a longer term feed for your plants, but people say, well, that's not even going to be available for a month. Well, no, some of it is available immediately. It's a long-term feed. There is some that's small enough and in the right format that your plants can take up pretty early. But remember, these things aren't even going to have roots to be taking up nutrients until at least 2 weeks probably. So it's got time. It'll work. The biome in the soil is what breaks it down and makes this stuff into a format, into a way that the plants can take it out. I'm saying the wrong word here, but my ADD is kicking in here because I'm trying to think of the right word. So anyway, I'm going to set this aside, and we already have our soil in here. I filled everything up. I did press down a little bit. I pressed down, and the best, how hard do you press? You don't want to pack it in, and you don't want it so loose that there's big air pockets in there. So what I like to say is, I pressed it in. If you were to press on your eyeball as comfortable as you are, as hard as you are to comfortably press on your eyeball, don't press hard. That's about how, I just want to make sure there's no big air pockets in there. And then after I press it down, I'll put a little more to level it off. On these little 6-packs that I'm using right now, there's the little dividers between the cells is about 1/8 of an inch lower than the others. I'll try to get it up to that lower level, but you know, somewhat. Some of these seeds need to be planted a little. Oh, see now, I just pressed those two down pretty far. I barely touched them. Obviously, I hadn't touched them before. On the last video, I used this tray when we planted this. This was turned around, and I was focusing on this end more than the other end. But now that I'm focusing on, see that one just sunk down. I just barely touched it, and obviously, there was a lot of air pocket in that one. So you just want to make sure there's no air pockets in there, and that's it really. Just want to make sure that the reason why the air pockets it's important to get them out is because when you water it, you know, these seeds are optimally planted at a certain depth, and if there's an air pocket under there, the first time you water it, everything's going to settle, and that seed could dislodge itself deeper. Now the funny thing is, even if it's dislodged deeper, it might just take a little longer to germinate. I've actually seen seeds do that, where one pops up, you know, in 3 days, the other one takes 7 days to pop up. It's nature. There is no uniformity here. It is just dependent on every single seed, how deep it is, how much water it gets, and so forth. So these are ready to go, and we are going to get started planting some seeds. So if you watch our small space gardening series, we're really focused on keeping things simple, and this may look a little overwhelming. We actually do things a lot more simply because I'm a very strong believer in, I think everyone should at least try this, and most of us have at least a space to try planting a single plant, whether it's an onion or a tomato or a pepper plant or whatever. You know, it doesn't take much to try planting something, and to have, I find it very joyful to have food that I've grown, and it just tastes better. But I do keep things very simple. One of the in seed starting, we have to make a little place to put the seed, and you can use all kinds of tools. This is an old butter knife from the kitchen. It was an old cheap set that we got. There's a spoon. In fact, this is the spoon that stars in our small space gardening videos. So it doesn't have to be anything expensive. You know, one YouTuber will actually use a pencil and to create that hole. That's called a dibble. It's called dibbling. I don't know, it's just a gardening term. But, you know, it's got to point it in. You make a little hole for a seed. One of my favorite things is this little thing here, because it actually is a kind of multi-purpose. It is an icing spatula that I bought years and years ago when I was doing some baking. And discovered this thing is great. Number one, you can dibble a little hole with it. You can actually pull out seedlings out of these 6-packs real easy with it. Bunch of stuff. You'll see me using this a number of times throughout my videos. But one of the big things is some people will go in here and just poke a finger down and make the hole. And okay, I'm not going to say it's wrong, but we were just talking about you don't want to pack that soil. You want to give that soil the fluffiness for those roots to be able to reach out in there. Now, believe me, roots are tough. They can grow into the smallest thing and push apart huge boulders. So we all know that roots are tough. I'm not going to say it's wrong. I just don't prefer to do it that way. And that's it's neither here nor there. So it's not this big thing to debate about. We could make debates about it, but I'm not sure my time is worth that. And I know my experience is not worth it. So anyway, we're going to start planting. I'm going to start with the bluebonnets. And these are beautiful flowers. It's a Texas flower. We are in the panhandle of Florida, so I'm really hoping that these grow. They do grow year after year once you get them started. And I would love to have these dotted around the property. Mrs. Bowtie grew up in Texas. We actually lived in Texas down in Port Aransas for about 10 years, and had a property down there and really enjoyed Texas. So anyway, the depth of planting these seeds is actually determined by the size of the seed. Now these are about BB sized seeds. In fact, if I hold them up here, you can see they're not small. Maybe a little bit smaller than a BB, but because of that, you generally plant them about 2 or 3 times the depth. The depth of the hole is 2 or 3 times the width of the seed. That sounds very subjective to my OCD brain, because, you know, some seeds are long and narrow, and is it the width of the seed I don't know. But anyway, nice thing is it actually tells you on the package to plant it so deep. And I don't have my glasses on right now, but I do see it's telling me to plant it 4 inches apart. No glasses, I can't tell you off the top of my head, but the package generally tells you how deep to plant them. If the package doesn't, folks, go ask Google. Say, Google, how deep do I plant bluebonnet seeds? And it'll tell you. I was very excited when I saw these in the... I don't know if you heard that, but she said twice the width. She likes interjecting into my videos sometime. Did I say, hey, Google? I don't remember saying that, but she's still talking in there, so I'm talking over her. So I'm putting 2 seeds in each one of these. The reason why you put two or more seeds, now these, the reason why I'm doing 2 seeds is because just in case one doesn't germinate, the other will. And I really want these to germinate because I want to start these in a few different places in the garden. Yes, I know they spread, and you have to keep them in control, but I have some places I really would love for these things to be. Mrs. Bowtie loves bluebonnets. So, what Mrs. Bowtie loves, Mrs. Bowtie gets it, I can get it for her. So, there we go. Bluebonnets are done. We're going to just gently fill in those holes. And they're ready. Chives. Chives are a perennial. They will come back year after year after year. You chop up what you want. They say that a family can get by just fine with 2 or 3. A small family can get by with 2 or 3 bunches of these growing because they grow them this bunch. And we actually grew a bunch, and I didn't put it in a good place. And didn't work very well. So now these are very small seeds. These are just larger than a grain of sand. So these don't get planted as deep. I'm not even going to dibble a little hole in here. I'm just going to sow some here, and I'm putting them on the surface now. And what I will do when we're done is I will just simply pat a little bit of extra soil on top of them, just to make sure that, now I am doing several seeds in here per cell. They will come up in clumps. They live in clumps. If I get 6 clumps out of this, I have places in the garden I will be happy to place them. In fact, I will be ecstatic to place them. We had chives last year, just a few. I tried planting up. I was just really testing last year and to see how they do. I've learned more about chives since then, and I'm ready. I'm ready this year. I want chives this year. We are actually on a mission over the next year to start growing more of our own herbs and spices, because we want, you know, those little jar mixes like taco seasoning and stuff like that. Well, you can make your own, and I'm starting to get into the herbs and spices. That's this past couple of years have been flowers. Now I'm getting into herbs and spices. You add little things here and there, and we will be hopefully be able to mix some of our own stuff. So the next thing here is cauliflower. Now, cauliflower. I have tried to grow cauliflower. In fact, Mrs. Bowtie and I enjoyed maybe 2 little pieces of cauliflower a couple years ago. So now we were growing in pots back then, and in grow bags, because we lived in an apartment. And so just because you live in an apartment doesn't mean you can't do this. We now have a house, but that was then. This is now. So anyway, I am again putting several in here. Now, as far as putting several in there, I want them to come up. I'm going to have to thin them. Things like chives don't necessarily need thinning. Things like broccoli, these things have to be planted so far apart for them to have space to stretch out and develop those beautiful cauliflower blooms that we eat. And yeah, the thing we eat is a bloom. And we actually pick it before it actually starts opening, but if we let it go, it will bloom and create seeds. So we have I'm getting too far ahead of myself. We got 2 sections here where I've just put the seeds on top. We have the chives over here, and we have the cauliflower. And what I'm going to do, because they're small seeds, I'm just going to sprinkle a bit of soil on top of them. Now, they aren't small as lettuce seeds. Lettuce seeds are extremely small. I barely covered them and then patted it in. These are probably twice the width of lettuce seeds. And so I'm putting a little bit more over there. It's truly not, it's like 1/8 of an inch, okay? It's not a lot. So you just have to go on whatever the seeds are that you have and determine the depth. Just takes a little bit of practice, but it's not hard. It really isn't hard. Trust me, if I can do it with my brain, you can get there. You can get there. Okay, early green broccoli. I think these are planted for our package for, no, they are for last year. I just never got to them. I doubted myself there for just a moment. But we do like broccoli and cauliflower. You know, a lot of people are growing things like chard and other greens. Neither Mrs. Bowtie or I like greens that much. So we're not going to grow them because, you know, it's not really what we want to eat. So, you know, make your garden what you want to eat. You know, we're talking about our small space gardening series. Right now we're doing a tomato plant. If you don't like tomatoes, don't grow a tomato plant. If you love cucumbers, grow a cucumber. If you love jalapenos, grow a jalapeno plant. There are a lot of things that you can try and grow, and it's okay. Grow what you want to grow. Grow what you enjoy eating, because if you enjoy eating it, you will enjoy the experience. And if you enjoy the experience, then you may just become the next big gardener. I don't think I'm anything like that. I hope that one day I can be. But anyway, so these broccoli, same size seeds as the cauliflower, putting a nice little 1/8 inch cover over all those, patting them in gently. Again, I'm not patting them in real hard. I don't want that soil packed rock hard. We want to give those seeds every opportunity to grow up. Always do your labels. Labels are very important. It may not be totally intuitive why labels are important. What's going to happen, like here, I'm growing 2 different types of broccoli. I'm growing a calabrese and I'm growing an early green. What if that early green just grows in the panhandle of Florida beautifully? It grows just amazing and gives me these amazing flavor broccoli, and we love them, but this just peters out. Well, I need to know which kind I had, because different types of these edible stuff grow differently, and some of them are actually made to be in a warmer climate. Some of them are not. Some of them are actually made to be in a northern climate where it doesn't get as hot in the summer. So you really got to, like, we're very humid here. We live in Destin, Florida. We have the Choctawhatchee Bay on one side of us over there to the north, and then to the south we have the Gulf of Mexico. So we are humid, more humid than most places. We've lived in South Texas on the beach, then we lived in Arkansas. Now Arkansas, northwest Arkansas is humid, don't get me wrong. Not as humid as Port Aransas and Destin. It's a whole different animal completely. So you really need to be willing to experiment and figure out what grows better. And when it comes to broccoli, I'm experimenting. Last time I grew this broccoli, this calabrese broccoli, I tried planting it in mid-spring, like April or May, got into a hot summer, and it was an ugly turnout. So that was before I started making videos. You got to be willing to learn. And, you know, I actually said to our boys growing up, and I still believe it, is that the day you stop learning is the day you die. And we're always learning stuff. And you know, our I think it was our oldest son that one day said, well, what if a guy works the same job every single day for 25 years and never changes anything and never learns anything? And I told him, well, then he's learning patience. Sorry. My oldest son's a card. We love him immensely, but boy, he can think of those things, those types of questions. So anyway, labels are important. Always learning. Always be willing to learn in everything. So last thing is our Long Island improved Brussels sprouts. Now, if you've watched videos, y'all may remember, if you watch our videos, y'all may remember, we had Brussels sprouts growing out in our garden last year and the first part of this year. That was before I knew it was a, biennial plant. And so it will actually give you the fruit the first year. It is a Brassica, so down here in Florida, it is better to grow these in the fall. And that way you can get your Brussels sprouts in the spring. It'll survive over the cold winter, and then the following year, maybe even in the fall of next year, but I think more likely the following year it will start doing its flowering. And I'm still learning about flowering and collecting seeds for the next year, which means you buy seeds, a package of seeds, and you can then create your own seeds from then on if it's not a hybrid of some kind. That gets into a whole different thing. That's another discussion. But anyway, so there are 6 seeds. We discussed a couple of different reasons why we are planting in the fall. A few different reasons actually, and a few different types of plants. Annuals, I believe the cauliflower and broccoli are annuals. The biennials lives 2 years, does 2 different things, makes the fruit the first year, flowers and makes seeds the second year, like the Brussels sprouts. And the perennials, which come back year after year, like chives, and I'm hoping blue bonnets. It may be just that it reseeds itself. I was hoping to see here, but one of the cool things it does pollinate, attract bees and butterflies and other pollinators, which if you watch our garden tours, you know we have a bee box out here that we like keeping running. So that is it. That's a little discussion on seed starting. And yes, if we just talked about technique here, I probably could have made this into a short, but I think there's a lot of understanding that is important, understanding the different types. That's why I kind of picked a variety of these seeds here, so you can see a few different aspects of some important things about seed starting. So I hope you learned something from this. I hope it was informational, educational, maybe just inspirational. You already knew it and just inspired to go plant some seeds. Do it. And or maybe it's just entertaining to watch me poking around the dirt. Sometimes I like just watching other channels' videos just to watch what they do. Garden Answer and Creekside Nursery. I love watching what they do in their projects and everything. When I'm getting ready in the morning, I'm brushing my teeth and drinking my coffee, getting my breakfast. I actually will just play from my subscriptions page, and every morning about the time I wake up, it's Garden Answer and Creekside Nursery, and that's just the way I start my day. Sometimes I get a little bit of Chicago Gardener in there. There's others that I typically play in that morning time, and I just enjoy having it playing in the background after I get Mrs. Bowtie off to her office to work. But anyway, so yeah, please subscribe if you have not already, so you don't miss the results of this and the results of the lettuce. The lettuce is probably going to just be a short coming up here in the next week or so, but I want to see if this old seed grows. We're also going to do the same thing with the broccoli and the cauliflower and the chives and the blue bonnets, so I'm very excited to see what grows. And so yeah, and those of you who have subscribed already, you're my heroes. It is really the beginning of getting our channel going. And our channel is just a small part of the community. The overall community of homesteading and gardening channels out there on YouTube, it is a growing resource that we can learn from to be able to grow our own food and be more healthy and fix things that need to be fixed the way God intended it to be. So I believe that's extremely important that we have an understanding of that. If you thought this was, no, I already said that part. if you thought it was good to watch, well, I did say educational, inspirational, informational, or just entertaining, please click the thumbs up. And my OCD brain, I have to go through the right order in those words. Click the thumbs up on this video. Share with your friends on social media who also like to garden and might be inspired or informed or just might like to see what we're doing in the garden. And we do have tons of garden tours. This video, along with a lot of others, is really my own video journal of what's going on in the garden. I now know that on September 25th is the day I planted all these brassicas and blue bonnets and chives. And so that's my journal entry. I've tried writing in a book. I've tried taking pictures. My brain just doesn't do well with it. It doesn't go back to the information. Videos from my brain keeps my attention, keeps information going in my brain. That's part of my ADD brain. But anyway, hope you enjoyed. Have a blessed day.